your host, Miss Finch.
And I'm your co-host, Blujay.
And welcome to the Story Lab! Today we're going to be tackling the question, can we judge a book by its cover? This question's been asked by many and everyone has answered in their own ways. For this video, we're going to use the scientific method as a means to find out for those who aren't sure. Blujay, could you do the honors?
The first part of the scientific method is asking a question. What do you want to know? The next step is making a hypothesis, an educated guess. Step 3 is an experiment. Test your hypothesis with an experiment, a plan. Step 4 is to observe and record. Observe it and write down what you see happen. And number 5 is the conclusion. Determine if your hypothesis is correct, not correct, and see what happens.
So with our focus being on whether or not the covers of books make us decide whether a book is good or not, we have to decide on the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio. While this book cover is already interesting, I find that the cover is also a little subtle about what the book is about. What are your first thoughts on the book, Blujay?
My first thoughts were that it would give me a lot of things to wonder, and it kind of did, except the fact that there's other books that answered some of my questions.
Did the book give you any questions in particular? Like, were there any questions in regard to the eye? What did you think the eye indicated?
Well, I think the eye indicated people not looking through something as a whole. They think their idea and they don't second guess, and they just don't think about it. And another thing about it is that I just wondered if this was like a character or something, and it kind of is.
You think it is? Alright, well, how did the color of the book make you feel?
It was interesting. All there was blue, black, and white, so I wasn't sure what to think. It's just blue is just a calm color. I was expecting this to be calm, mysterious,
Alright, so what do you hypothesize this book is going to be about?
Something like a book that just gets you to just think and think and think and think over and over and over again,
More of a thinking book than like an adventure book?
Yeah.
That's what you thought it would be about?
Yep.
Okay. That's quite the hypothesis. Because when I first looked at the cover, I wasn't quite sure what to make of it either. I thought it was really interesting that the person on the cover had one eye as well. And it left me a lot to wonder. Just like the cover of the title. You get it?
Okay. That was good.
So moving on to the next part of the experiment, we're going to be reading the book to develop an understanding of why the cover is made the way it is and how it relates to the book. So we'll bid adieu for now for this brief intermission while Blujay and I read the story. Pop quiz time with Miss Finch. Question number 1. Which of the following is considered a form of bullying? A. Verbal harassment. B. Social ostracization. C. Physical intimidation. D. Cyberbullying. E. All of the above. Alright, time's up. The correct answer is all of the above. Bullies often seek control and power through making others feel smaller than they are. And this is done by hurting others, whether emotionally or physically. What are ways you can fight back against bullying? If safe, stand up for your peers through supporting and calling out hurtful behaviors. You can also tell a trusted adult about the bullying occurring. Remember, always show kindness and compassion to others by treating each other how you would want to be treated. Now back to the program. Alright everyone, after reading, we need to dive into some key elements of the story itself, starting with the characters. Blujay, why don't you tell us about the protagonist of the story?
The protagonist, also known as person that's dealing with all the problems, is August Paulman, who was born with a facial difference. He didn't go to school until he started 5th grade, which in his school is considered middle school. And And Augie's also just, most people think he's like weird because of his face.
Because of how he looks. So in a sense, he's being judged like a cover too, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing, with all the genetics that's been passed down in his family, for him to be born like that, there was only a 1 in 4 million chance. That was rare.
What are one of the main problems that August faces in the book?
Well, around the beginning of the story, he gets bullied a lot, and people don't exactly talk to him. And behind his back, people were playing this game called The Plague, where if they touch him, they have 30 seconds to wash their hands.
It's giving the same energy as the cheese touch.
Honestly, that's what he compared it to in his mind.
Was there any aspects of the book or of August that you related to?
Probably most of the just being glad he has friends. Like, I'm not usually a likable person. Most people say I talk too much and I'm like too much of a nerd. So I'm just really glad to even have any friends.
I get it, the struggle to make friends. So, what about any other characters in the story? Were there any characters that you really liked or didn't like besides August?
Well, there's also his sister, Via, who is really protective of him. There's his mom and dad. Her name is Marinda, which was Via's friend until they started getting distant. There's also Jack Will. There's also Summer, which was August's first friend, who just went over to his little lunch table. He was all alone until she just went over there and they just became friends automatically.
That's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
I noticed that this story, it sounds like August makes a lot of friends. Do you think that ties to any themes of the story about friendship? How would you say that his interactions with his peers tie into any of the themes? And what are the themes?
It could be kindness, most likely. Yeah, kindness sounds like a good way to describe it.
So, some key takeaways of the story is to...
I think the lesson of this story teaches you is to always be kind.
To always be kind to others.
Yeah.
Do you think that the cover of the book ties into the story at all? Now that you've been reading it?
Kind of. I think it's supposed to be like a way to represent Augie because of his appearance.
Okay. If that's the case, do you think the cover of the book indicates any of his feelings or how he sees himself or how others see him?
Well, no, not really. It's just no expression, no emotion, and it's just probably just a representation of part of him.
Or a part of his perspective?
A part of others' perspective, probably, because Augie sees himself as a normal kid with just a weird face. Others think of him as like a thing, not even a living person or item. They treat him like he's dirt. I don't know, that's how I would describe it.
Like the actions of his peers affect him?
Yeah.
What do you think the title Wonder means in the story after reading the book? Do you think Augie's wondering about things or how people wonder about him?
I think it's mostly just because it's a book that gives you things to wonder. And in some other books they made as throw-offs, like Augie and Me, which gives you 3 more stories, it gives you a couple of those questions answers. Gives Augie and Me. The other reason is that in the book, it said that the doctors say that Augie was a medical wonder, or it was a wonder for him to survive the 14, 18, I think, surgeries he had. And when he was born, the doctors didn't think he was even going to survive because of how his face was. He couldn't even breathe, eat automatically. He had to have a feeding tube and a little, tube installed in his neck to breathe. And sometimes that tube would just get clogged up randomly and then he'll start choking.
With all that Augie's been through in the story, are there any takeaways about yourself or others? Is there anything you've learned from his perspective and his experience with all the things he's gone through?
I think think on the positive side, because like he just before he went to school, he just said he really didn't want to, and like he just didn't want to, mostly because he thought he would be made fun of over and over and over again. But in the end, he actually got into a fight with a 7th grader, and instead of being known for his face, he was known for that, and everyone was actually friends with him.
So it's to take that leap of courage for yourself?
Yep.
Alright. It kind of makes me think that even as an adult, I've learned some from this book about courage and treating others with empathy and kindness. Even as an adult, we're always learning. It's the best part of being human. From the data discussed and displayed, the two of us were able to relate the cover to parts of the book. While the book cover doesn't tell us the story, it can always give us clues to what the story is about.
That is pretty true. That sounds pretty correct.
I think that our experiment shows that covers just give us hints. The real magic's inside the pages. To truly know a book, you just gotta read it.
And that's why we shouldn't judge a book or a person just by how they look. Like Augie and Wonder.
Hey, that's a great connection. Well, that's all for Story Lab today. Remember to stay curious, keep reading, and never judge a book by its cover. Bye.